guys, today is the 2nd of January 2021, the year that changes everything. Everything will be much better this year. So, good to be back. Today I was thinking about what is really important. What is really important to me. Because when a new year starts, as I mentioned yesterday in the New Year's resolution, is always a good point to come up with how I envision my future. So we talked about going always back into the past and then projecting the past into the future and never being here in the moment. So that's not the idea, but it is still, it gives you a certain direction when you have an idea how you want to live your life. So many years ago, I read this book by Sri Nisargadatta Maharaj, a really famous Indian guy who eventually reached what is called enlightenment, if there's such a thing. And he would give talks. People would come from all over the world to visit him and ask him questions. So one of the questions that really impressed me a lot was when somebody said, Sri Nisargadatta, what is real? And he said, everything that has a beginning and has an end isn't real. So that excludes a lot of things. And the big question is, what is left? What doesn't have a beginning and doesn't have an end? And for myself, I just came to the conclusion it is friendship, is love. I was very close with my grandparents, but my grandfather died about 20 years ago, and nothing has changed. I still love him the same as I loved him back then. So, and there was not really a beginning of that love, I guess, it was just there. So that also implies, what do we focus on? Pretty much everything that we do goes towards something that doesn't really exist because it has a beginning and has an end. And is it worth to put so much effort and time into that? Into something that isn't real? And a couple of years ago, I came across this book by this Australian woman called Bronnie Ware, an Australian nurse. And she wrote this book, The Top 5 Regrets of the Dying. And that's really interesting because it's great to learn from these people who went already through that life that we have, some of us quite a bit, or some of us a little less, still ahead of us. So, and here's number 1. I wish I had the courage to live a life true to myself, not the life others expected of me. Really amazing point, because very often we live for others. And that for sure will not make us very happy when we don't live for ourselves. Years ago, I did this project in New York about coming out stories. So I interviewed gays and lesbians from, I think youngest was around 18 and the oldest in his late 70s. I always had the feeling we all need like a coming out story. Because what people that are attracted to the same sex have to do is to tell, their family, look, I'm this way. I'm not like you thought I was. I like the same sex. And as heterosexuals, you don't really ever have to do this. I mean, you never have to stand up and say, look, that's not me. You thought that that's who I am, but that's not me. So that's a really very valid point here, that people say that, I really want to live my own life. I didn't want to live the life for somebody else. Second point, I wish I hadn't worked so hard. And I think that point is really interesting, because if you get point number 1, then you don't even have to worry about number 2, because you wouldn't feel that what you do is work. If you really do what you are and what you're inspired to do, when you find your bliss, you would still work what others would consider hard, but it wouldn't be heart to you because you love what you're doing. Number 3, I wish I had the courage to express my feelings. Yeah, that's a big one, especially for men. That just means you don't even accumulate the steam. We all repress, and then we explode. And usually we explode in front of the wrong person, not the person who deserved that mess. So another really great point here to express yourself. Number 4, I wish I had stayed in touch with my friends. And that's also such a big one, because at least to me, I never remember things for whatever I did that day, but I always remember who I did it with. So my good friend Marco, who's from Mexico, we spent a lot of time together in New York, and we went to a couple of concerts. I think it was Depeche Mode, and it was The Cure, and then I went to AC/DC myself, and I have no recollection of that concert because there was nobody else there who enjoyed the concert with me. So important to stay in touch with your friends, because friendship, as I mentioned at the beginning, is also one of the points, or one of the things, to me at least, that doesn't have a beginning, it doesn't have an end. Number 5, I wish I had let myself be happier. Yeah, that's a big one too. So sometimes we look back and then we're like, oh man, it wasn't that bad. And I was all grumpy about it. I could have said, oh well, let's just enjoy. But it's a tough one to do. But especially in the times of Corona, that's a really important one to remember as well. So really a lot that we can learn from the people that are on the way out of this life. And to me, though, the first point is really also the most important one, to find your own way and don't fall into a mold, what people expect you to do or expect you to be. And you can always change it. I mean, I personally started in a bank. I mean, that wasn't that much fun. But there are ways to really follow what you love to do, and to finding your own way is not the easiest, but to me it's the only way. And also just to ask yourself what is really important to me. And it's a good time to do this right now, especially with Corona still being around us. What really matters to me? And then focus on that. Because ultimately, if Sri Nisargadatta was really right that everything that has a beginning and has an end isn't real, otherwise we only invest our energy and time in an unreality. And that's kind of a waste of time, isn't it? Anyway, thank you so much. See you guys tomorrow. Bye for now.